It's all over for the Duke of York. Prince Andrew gives up all his titles in the wake of the Jeffrey Epstein scandal.
But now, another alleged email has just been exposed.
It's all over for the Duke of York. Prince Andrew gives up all his titles in the wake of the Jeffrey Epstein scandal.
Over the last week, breaking news and allegations about Prince Andrew are flooding the media.
One of the most shocking revelations was that he had asked his police protection officer to investigate Virginia Giuffre.
That is, number one, morally disgraceful, but also a criminal act.
It is the biggest royal scandal in living memory, engulfing the royal family and threatening the firm itself.
This is the most dangerous point for the monarchy since the abdication crisis of 1936.
This fresh catastrophe started 2 weeks ago with a bombshell revelation featured in a Channel 5 documentary exclusive that Prince Andrew lied to the public.
Was that visit, December of 2010, the only time you saw him after he was convicted?
Yes.
Did you see him or speak
No.
to him again?
No.
At the very least, Prince Andrew is a liar. At the very worst, he's a sexual exploiter.
With explosive allegations published in Virginia Giuffre's memoir and pressure mounting, just 5 days later, he is forced to act.
This is pretty unique, the idea of a member of the royal family actually having to surrender his title because of his behaviour.
But it's not enough to stem the flow of more devastating allegations.
Andrew created an unexploded bomb that is sitting underneath the palace ready to go off.
He sits in Royal Lodge in Windsor, a mansion.
He is not paying rent. He should be read his rights. He should be taken to the police station.
With public anger clearly rising and a possible police investigation looming, the world waits with bated breath on the royal family's next move that could decide their fate.
It seems to me there's a very strong case against Andrew, so we could actually potentially see the first member of the royal family going to prison.
On Friday, October the 17th, every news programme in Britain led with the same story.
It's 10 o'clock. This is Sky News at 10. Our top story. Prince Andrew announces he's given up his royal titles and will no longer be known as the Duke of York.
All major networks broadcast the statement from the palace, where the prince revealed he would no longer be using his titles Duke of York or Knight of the Garter.
It's all over for the Duke of York. Prince Andrew gives up all his titles in the wake of the Jeffrey Epstein scandal.
Over the last week, breaking news and allegations about Prince Andrew are flooding the media.
One of the most shocking revelations was that he had asked his police protection officer to investigate Virginia Giuffre.
That is, number one, morally disgraceful, but also a criminal act.
It is the biggest royal scandal in living memory, engulfing the royal family and threatening the firm itself.
This is the most dangerous point for the monarchy since the abdication crisis of 1936.
This fresh catastrophe started 2 weeks ago with a bombshell revelation featured in a Channel 5 documentary exclusive that Prince Andrew lied to the public.
Was that visit, December of 2010, the only time you saw him after he was convicted?
Yes.
Did you see him or speak
No.
to him again?
No.
At the very least, Prince Andrew is a liar. At the very worst, he's a sexual exploiter.
With explosive allegations published in Virginia Giuffre's memoir and pressure mounting, just 5 days later, he is forced to act.
This is pretty unique, the idea of a member of the royal family actually having to surrender his title because of his behaviour.
But it's not enough to stem the flow of more devastating allegations.
Andrew created an unexploded bomb that is sitting underneath the palace ready to go off.
He sits in Royal Lodge in Windsor, a mansion.
He is not paying rent. He should be read his rights. He should be taken to the police station.
With public anger clearly rising and a possible police investigation looming, the world waits with bated breath on the royal family's next move that could decide their fate.
It seems to me there's a very strong case against Andrew, so we could actually potentially see the first member of the royal family going to prison.
On Friday, October the 17th, every news programme in Britain led with the same story.
It's 10 o'clock. This is Sky News at 10. Our top story. Prince Andrew announces he's given up his royal titles and will no longer be known as the Duke of York.
All major networks broadcast the statement from the palace, where the prince revealed he would no longer be using his titles Duke of York or Knight of the Garter.
We have concluded the continued accusations about me distract from the work of His Majesty and the royal family. I will therefore no longer use my title or the honours which have been conferred upon me. As I've said previously, I vigorously deny the accusations against me.
It's almost unprecedented. A member of the royal family, a senior one, actually having to surrender his title because of his behaviour. He made no apology or showed any sign of contrition. This man has absolutely no idea of any form of empathy.
Andrew claimed responsibility for the decision, but it's rumoured that the announcement came after mounting pressure from the firm.
Officially, Andrew jumped. I think unofficially, he was pushed by his big brother, King Charles. We know that William, his nephew, has been pushing Charles hard to be firmer and stronger with Andrew. And I think we finally saw who won, and it was William, not Andrew, in this case.
King himself should have actually made the announcement on Friday, not left it to Andrew.
There was one particular incredibly inflammatory line in Andrew's statement that just absolutely proves his arrogance and the ego that has got him here in the first place. He said it was to stop him from being a distraction to the good work of the monarchy. The public do not see Andrew as a distraction. They see Andrew who has done something which is definitively morally wrong. And that was what the statement should have said.
This monumental announcement comes after a bombshell news story just 5 days earlier. An email was leaked, which proves he was still in contact with billionaire paedophile Jeffrey Epstein in February 2011, 2 months after he visited the disgraced financier in December 2010. He told Emily Maitlis he made the trip to end the relationship in person.
So no contact?
No contact.
When he was serving time, there was no call, no letter, nothing there?
No. And to this day, I never had any contact with him from that day forward.
When you look back now at the Newsnight interview with Emily Maitlis, it's a pantomime.
He said then that he had explicitly gone over to New York to break up the friendship with Jeffrey Epstein and that they had ceased parting a day after those photographs were taken in December. This proves that they were in touch far longer than that. This is February of the following year, and he lied about it.
Some more.
Emily Maitlis herself reacted strongly to the email, as she explained on BBC's Sunday with Laura Kunsberg.
I felt quite sick, actually. The idea, not just that he was saying we're in this together, but signing off, let's play some more soon, does not suggest that he had ever finished that friendship.
It all looks incredibly guilty from the outside, and his claim that the friendship was over is not true at all. At the very least, Prince Andrew is a liar. At the very worst, he's a sexual exploiter.
This email, broadcast in a Channel 5 exclusive documentary, was the catalyst for Andrew's unprecedented step to relinquish his titles. Incendiary extracts from Virginia Giuffre's posthumous memoir prior to publication then provided the kind of detail no one ever expected to read about a senior royal.
Virginia Giuffre writes that Prince Andrew was polite enough, but that he seemed to feel that he was entitled to have sex with her, that he was bringing so much privilege into the room that he didn't even question whether she wanted to be there.
Most damaging of all are new details about multiple alleged encounters she had with the prince.
It's apparent from Giuffre's book that she says that there were 3 episodes where she was trafficked to Andrew.
And the way she was treated by the men Epstein trafficked her to.
She says Epstein and the other famous men who she was handed over to never used condoms.
Virginia says the first sexual encounter took place in London, at the home of Ghislaine Maxwell, Epstein's former girlfriend, now in prison for sex trafficking minors.
She says Andrew saw her as somebody who was being provided for a service, and that the service would happen for half an hour, and the thanking her at the end is what I find is a really chilling detail, because there's still a sense of understanding that she's a human being who has to be given some acknowledgement, and then he's on his way again.
1 month later, they allegedly met again in New York.
The second encounter is in the Manhattan townhouse with another woman there. And as a bit of a joke, they produced this spitting image puppet of Prince Andrew. The hand of the spitting image puppet is placed on her breast.
So you've got the real Prince Andrew, and then you've got the weird, creepy puppets of Prince Andrew, and you've got people grabbing people, and you've got girls being trafficked. The whole look is really sinister, really creepy, and must have been, obviously, really frightening.
12 weeks after their first encounter at Ghislaine's London house, they allegedly met again on Epstein's private island. The description was more sordid than anyone had imagined.
Virginia Giuffre reported that the third and final time that she had sex with Andrew, it was as an orgy. There were apparently about 8 girls, Epstein and Andrew.
She says that there were a whole lot of other women there, most of whom didn't speak English, all of whom seemed to the age of 18, and that the people having sex with them were, she says, Prince Andrew and Jeffrey Epstein himself. And I mean, you know, that is a picture of utter debauchery.
I understand that a lot of these were young girls, prospective models that were brought in from Russia, often not speaking English, and therefore it would be very hard to trace them.
So Virginia also describes how actually a few days after this incident with Andrew on Epstein's Island, she actually fell ill on the plane and was taken to hospital. She says that she miscarried. For a guy like Prince Andrew to come in and have sex with somebody without a condom, assuming that Virginia's allegations are true, it's mind-blowing. It shows a total disregard for any kind of consequence at all from his actions.
Horrific details laid bare for the first time in the allegations raised the temperature on Andrew and the palace. He finally agrees to step down. Just 2 days after Andrew's statement, damning material appears in the Mail on Sunday. An alleged email from Andrew to Epstein, where he seems to admit that he knows Virginia. He has always categorically denied meeting her. The email suggests otherwise.
He's not saying, oh my God, this image has been falsified, it's fake, I'm outraged, look at these lies. Instead, he seems to be worried that he's been found out. He seems to be giving Epstein a warning that a bit of evidence is coming to light, and he's panicking. You wouldn't panic unless it was a little bit true.
The floodgates really do appear to be open.
There are suggestions that the palace is washing its hands of him.
This absolute seismic flow of information that's been coming out ever since essentially the stories in the Virginia Giuffre book were revealed indicate that he's no longer being protected, because the King, and even more so the Prince of Wales, have decided that he is now busted flush, and there's no point in protecting him any longer.
It certainly looks like all bets are off now when it comes to Andrew, that perhaps there have been stories that newspapers have been sitting on for a while, waiting for the right moment, and they've decided now is the right moment.
We're now watching stories come out at a rate of 2 or 3 a day, and there is at this point no limit to seeing where it ends.
What allegedly comes next is unimaginable.
The most explosive email that Andrew sent during this period was to the Queen's Deputy Press Secretary at the time, a man called Ed Perkins, and he said that he had asked an on-duty police protection officer, who he named, to look into the suggestion that Virginia Giuffre might have a criminal record in America, which her family denied. He provided this officer, he said, with Virginia's date of birth and social security number.
It's so incredibly damaging because it shows that he is trying to get out ahead of this scandal and dish up incriminating evidence against his accuser.
This is not a he said, she said. There is a piece of documentary evidence at the heart of these allegations. And so if they just drop this, the public will think that the royals always get away with it because the police just don't want to ever prosecute a member of the royal family.
Andrew's personal protection officers were funded by the taxpayer. Now press and public alike question why their money was being used to fund a disgraced, non-working member of the royal family and his lavish living arrangements.
Why is Andrew still living in Royal Lodge? How is he paying for it?
That question was answered in yet another jaw-dropping revelation. The Times publish a copy of the lease for Royal Lodge. Although he paid an initial £1 million for the lease and a further several million for refurbishment, he has not paid rent for 22 years. There is public outrage, and news covers angry protests at Windsor.
We're protesting today against Andrew, who should be arrested. He should be read his rights. He should be taken to the police station, and he should be questioned under caution.
If you're interested, there is a guy down there who's accused of very serious sexual offences.
The idea that he's just living in a 30-room mansion without having to pay rent is a spark that lights a tinderbox for the public.
With more damning evidence appearing daily in the press, is the monarchy facing oblivion?
The royal family are extremely image conscious. They are aware that they are being used as a kind of living soap opera for the rest of the nation. And right now, all of the plot points are very sleazy ones.
What Andrew's actions have done is to bring the monarchy into greater disrepute from anybody since the Duke of Windsor decided that going to Germany in 1937 to meet Hitler was a good idea.
I do think there's much more to come, and I have been told it's pretty lurid and pretty gory stuff.
And shocking news tonight out of the UK. Prince Andrew is relinquishing all his royal titles and duties over allegations linking him to convicted sex trafficker Jeffrey Epstein.
In a whirlwind 5 days for the prince, his shocking and unprecedented announcement is breaking news around the world.
Officially, Andrew jumped. I think unofficially, he was pushed by his big brother, King Charles.
This comes after Channel 5 helps break a sensational story of a new email revealing Prince Andrew lied about cutting contact with paedophile Jeffrey Epstein.
At the very least, Prince Andrew is a liar. At the very worst, he's a sexual exploiter.
The scandal then intensifies as sexual assault victim Virginia Giuffre's posthumous memoir is released, with each devastating revelation unpicked on the morning shows.
How damning is it for them?
Oh, hugely damning.
Giuffre says Maxwell introduced her to Prince Andrew when she was 17.
With the floodgates now opened, Andrew is exposed to damaging new allegations.
The police have said they are actively looking at these new claims. It could still result in Andrew being prosecuted.
Andrew has this gigantic 30-room mansion that to him is just his... Really, it's his playroom, it's his giant playhouse.
But of course it's come to light that he's only paying a peppercorn rate. It's been suggested that the royal family have been trying to get him out, but he's staying put.
How did the 17-year-old girl from Sacramento, Virginia Giuffre, come to cross paths with the then Duke of York?
There are so many heartbreaking details of Virginia's story. It just makes you want to cry, really.
And how did Andrew end up in the horrifying memoir of the victim of sexual trafficking?
Prince Andrew has done this to himself. Everything we're finding out now stems from his own activities.
It's a real example of where hubris lands you. Hubris and greed.
Across the 1990s, Andrew indulges in the high society circuit in pursuit of power, influence, and money.
He was always drawn to rich people, and he wanted to live their lifestyle, and the only way to live that lifestyle was to get in with a lot of these people.
And Andrew begins to spend time with a woman who has significant connections into that world.
Ghislaine Maxwell was the favourite daughter of the Czech businessman Robert Maxwell. She was intelligent, she was sophisticated, she was well connected.
Andrew clearly identified her as someone who could be a beneficiary to him.
But at this time, Ghislaine is harbouring a dark secret.
What we now know is that back in the early 90s, about 94, that Ghislaine Maxwell was securing, sourcing, finding young women, underage women, for Jeffrey Epstein.
She wasn't just Epstein's girlfriend. She was recruiting those girls, and then she was easing them into Epstein's life, and then she was making them feel that they were safe, only for Epstein to then sexually abuse them.
Soon, Andrew is introduced to her enigmatic billionaire boyfriend, Jeffrey Epstein. This meeting set in motion a series of events that will change the course of Andrew's life forever and shake the very foundations of the British monarchy.
Not only was Jeffrey Epstein incredibly rich, he was also incredibly well connected to powerful people. And of course, it was a symbiotic relationship. Jeffrey Epstein could have doors open to him by Prince Andrew that no one else could do.
The friendship blossoms, and in 1999, Epstein truly lays out the royal treatment for the Duke.
He flew out to Epstein's Island in the Caribbean.
Little St James in the US Virgin Islands is Jeffrey Epstein's private island, which became known as Paedophile Island for obviously what was going on there.
And of course, this private jet got the nickname Lolita Express.
And the reason it was called the Lolita Express was just the sheer number of young girls, teenage girls, that were on these flights.
He then gets sucked into Epstein's world, and he had, I suppose, numerous points along that track where he could have thought, actually, there's something here is not quite right. But he didn't. He continued that friendship.
So close are the trio that in the summer of 1999, the Duke extends an invitation to Epstein and Maxwell to attend a party at the Queen's private residence, Balmoral.
The real kind of coveted invitation is to a personal party of the monarch. And Balmoral was the Queen's private home. It's not a palace like Buckingham Palace, not owned by the state. It's her private home.
An astonishing photo released to the British press shows Epstein and Maxwell relaxing on the Queen's beloved Scottish estate.
Let's just take a minute to remind ourselves who they are. Ghislaine Maxwell, currently serving time in an American prison for procuring underage girls for the world's most notorious paedophile, now dead, Jeffrey Epstein. These two individuals are invited into the inner sanctuary of the royal family. He was weaponizing his royal status to feather his own nest. It stinks.
May 2000, and the prince reportedly takes yet another flight on Epstein's private jet, the Lolita Express, this time to Epstein's Palm Beach residence, the place Ghislaine Maxwell is recruiting girls as young as 14 to be sexually trafficked by the billionaire.
It's amazing what he thought he could get away with.
Jeffrey Epstein isn't the only millionaire Prince Andrew is cozying up to. While in Florida, the Duke hobnobs with the now US President Donald Trump, photographed here with Epstein and Maxwell at the Mar-a-Lago resort.
Trump has been very keen to distance himself not only from Epstein but also from Prince Andrew, that there's plenty of photographic evidence putting the two of them together. The two shared an interest in golf, which they often talked about.
It was here a blonde-haired, blue-eyed teenager, Virginia Roberts, begins her new job.
I mean, Virginia's life had been pretty sad. She had grown up in a great deal of poverty in Florida. She'd been abused as a child. She'd lived on the streets.
I think she was 11 when she became homeless, and she had already been abused at that point. So her entire life was shaped by horrific sexual abuse.
And she was trying, an intelligent young girl, trying to work her way out of this deprivation.
Virginia Giuffre got a job at the Mar-a-Lago resort through her dad as a locker room attendant. She would have been mixing with very rich, very privileged, very entitled, well-connected people.
Just weeks later, she is recruited by Ghislaine Maxwell. and into a life of sexual abuse at the hands of Epstein and Maxwell.
She was 16 and she wanted to become a masseuse. And Ghislaine basically approached her and said, oh, well, if you want to be a masseuse, I know where you can take a job.
Giuffre was the perfect victim for someone like Ghislaine Maxwell, the ideal young woman, rootless, unprotected, abused.
And of course, if you are a 16-year-old and you're told that a billionaire wants to hire you, you probably don't ask too many questions. To her, that will have looked like a way out of a difficult life rather than a way into an even worse life.
Just a year later, in 2001, events would be put in motion which would bring about the fall of the House of York. After Virginia Giuffre says she is told she will be meeting Andrew.
So Virginia goes into some details in her book about the time she says she met Andrew for the first time, which she says was in London.
Virginia writes that she was going to be like Cinderella, her opportunity to meet a handsome prince. It sounds like a fairy tale, but it turned into a nightmare.
Virginia says a shopping trip was arranged ahead of her big night.
Ghislaine Maxwell wanted to get Virginia into a kind of sophisticated, demure dress or gown that she would kind of look dazzling in, but being a child, basically, being a teenage girl, 17 years old, Virginia just wanted to look like her pop heroes, so she picked out these kind of sparkly leggings with horses on, I think, and a pink crop top. She looks like a teenage girl because that's what she is.
One of the most nauseating elements in all of this, if it's true, of course, is that the first time that she met Prince Andrew, he was able to guess her age, which was 17, because he himself mentioned his own two daughters, Beatrice and Eugenie, and talked about them being only marginally younger than she was. You really would think the very last thing a father would do was want to mention or even think of his daughters in connection with that sort of situation.
There are so many heartbreaking details of Virginia's story, but the fact that she wanted to get a picture of her with Andrew to show her mum, despite what was about to happen, it just makes you want to cry, really.
This waif-like little 17-year-old with this 41-year-old. And she gets her little cheap camera and gets Jeffrey Epstein to take a picture with Ghislaine Maxwell smiling in the background, Andrew standing beside her, his arm around her naked waist. And in some ways it could have been quite an innocent photograph, but of course knowing what was about to happen, it's actually deeply disturbing.
It is claimed in her book that Virginia is then taken to the private members club, Tramp, by Maxwell and Epstein, along with Prince Andrew.
She described the scene where he was dancing crazily and sweating.
And this guy was sweating all over me, like his sweat was raining basically everywhere, and I was just like, whoa.
The pair are then reported to go back to Maxwell's Belgravia home, as recalled in the uncomfortable Panorama interview.
In the car, Ghislaine tells me that I have to do for Andrew what I do for Jeffrey. And that made me sick.
Now in her memoir, Virginia describes the encounter, adding to the disturbing details revealed in her TV interview.
Apparently they took a bath together, but he was very keen to get to the bed, where he paid a lot of attention to her feet.
Didn't last very long, the whole entire procedure. It was disgusting. He wasn't mean or anything, but he got up and he said thanks and walked out, and I sat there in bed just horrified and ashamed and felt dirty, and I had to get up and grab a shower.
She says in the book that he seemed to think he had a birthright to have sex with her. It's really stomach-churning.
For her services towards Prince Andrew, allegedly Virginia Giuffre was passed $15,000 by Jeffrey Epstein. So Epstein paid for Prince Andrew's night of fun.
Virginia Giuffre accused Prince Andrew of sexually abusing her. At the time, she was aged approximately 17.
Prince Andrew denied that he had ever met Giuffre, when later forensically questioned by Emily Maitlis.
July of this year, Epstein was arrested on charges of sex trafficking and abusing dozens of underage girls. One of Epstein's accusers, Virginia Roberts, has made allegations against you. She says she met you in 2001. She says she dined with you, danced with you, at Tramp nightclub in London. She went on to have sex with you in a house in Belgravia belonging to Ghislaine Maxwell, your friend. Your response?
I have no recollection of ever meeting this lady. None whatsoever.
But according to Virginia Giuffre's explosive memoir, this is only one of 3 encounters she had in 2001 with the now disgraced Duke.
She talks about being in an orgy with Andrew and Jeffrey Epstein and lots of other girls.
That is a picture of utter debauchery.
Prince Andrew has announced that he is relinquishing his royal titles.
In the last week, news broke that 40 years after he was first gifted the title Duke of York, Prince Andrew was giving it up.
Huge amounts of pressure was building on Andrew and was building on the palace to do more to tackle Andrew and to send a message that he wasn't just going to be tolerated.
Tension was mounting after an email featured in a Channel 5 documentary exclusive proved that he lied about contact with Epstein.
Particularly crucial, I think, here is his jaunty sign-off, let's play together sometime soon. What does he mean, play?
I think this is not only the end for Andrew, it potentially could be the end for the family itself.
Following Virginia Giuffre's first alleged meeting with the Duke in London, just 1 month later, she recounts seeing him again. This time at Jeffrey Epstein's New York residence, alongside Ghislaine Maxwell.
The second encounter is in the Manhattan townhouse with another woman there, a young girl called Joanna Sjoberg, who I understand was a virgin at the time.
It's here a weird-looking puppet of Prince Andrew is alleged to have been brought out.
I have to be kissed 3 times a day after meals. What? Yeah, otherwise I turn into a frog. Oh, oh.
The puppet comes from the hugely successful satirical TV program Spitting Image.
I'm a naughty guy.
In this clip, Prince Andrew is depicted as a cartoonish womanizer.
I like to have a lie down wherever I go, 'cause I'm just a prince.
Allegedly, the puppet was placed on Virginia's lap, and Ghislaine Maxwell put the puppet's hand on Virginia's breast. And then the other girl sat on the real Prince Andrew's lap, and Prince Andrew placed his hand on her breast. It's about power. Allegedly, later in that evening, Virginia had to have sex with Prince Andrew.
In Virginia Giuffre's bombshell book, she describes an even more sinister and tawdry encounter, this time at Epstein's Caribbean island, later dubbed Pedo Island.
Virginia Giuffre's description of the third encounter that she says she had with Prince Andrew was effectively an orgy. She says that there were a whole lot of other women there, all of whom seemed to be under the age of 18.
She says Epstein and Prince Andrew, who she was handed over to, never used condoms. So, I mean, that is obviously an incredibly harrowing thing for a woman to go through.
A lot of these girls didn't speak English, that Jeffrey Epstein made jokes about the fact that that made things easier because they didn't really understand the language. So, in effect, it was a situation that she was forced into.
They could have been trafficked. You know, how would a girl get away? How would she escape?
One of the other revelations in the book is that Virginia actually became pregnant. Now, we have got hospital records for an occasion, certainly when she was taken to hospital with internal bleeding.
She woke up covered in blood, and there was a mark on her stomach which was consistent with surgery on an ectopic pregnancy.
Soon after, in September 2002, Maxwell sent Giuffre to Thailand to recruit a young girl for Epstein. But it was here she broke free from Epstein's enthrall.
She took the opportunity to basically flee with a man that she met there, a martial arts instructor who she married, Robert Giuffre.
Not long after their whirlwind romance, The happy couple, as seen here in this personal photograph, left Thailand together.
They moved to Australia to get as far away from Epstein as she could.
4 years on from Giuffre's escape, things begin to unravel for Epstein and for his friend Prince Andrew. Epstein's crimes are first exposed in this disturbing 911 call to the Palm Beach Police Department from the stepmother of a 14-year-old girl.
And they start off by giving this gentleman a massage, and he pays them. If he likes them and he thinks that they're pretty enough, he keeps them around to do other things. Okay.
Now police monitor Epstein's mansion and rifle through the rubbish and phone records. A year later, they have enough evidence to charge him with soliciting and prostitution of a minor. It's covered in shocking detail in TV news.
2 victims were questioned during the proceedings, including one who alleged Epstein, then in his 50s, molested her when she was just 14. The other said she was raped by Epstein the day before her 18th birthday.
But in court, Epstein looked calm.
For a long time, Epstein glided through whatever the allegations were thrown at him sort of imperviously.
2 months after the warrant is issued for Epstein's arrest, Prince Andrew throws a lavish 18th birthday bash for Princess Beatrice. The guest list raises more than a few eyebrows.
Prince Andrew invited Harvey Weinstein, Maxwell, and Jeffrey Epstein. They were given access to the very top of the UK monarchy.
There's quite a grotesque picture of these characters enjoying the entertainment at Andrew's lavish home. The background to all that at the time was that Epstein himself was very much under investigation, although Weinstein at that time was not.
Why? Why does he want to be seen in this top British old-moneyed family? Because it helps Epstein launder his filthy reputation.
But across the Atlantic, evidence is mounting. By 2007, the FBI has dozens of young women ready to testify against Epstein. The indictment spells out how they were allegedly recruited, trafficked, and abused.
60 counts on the indictment against Epstein. It looks like the sky's going to fall in on him and the whole kind of house of cards is going to come tumbling down.
The case reaches court a year later, but the multimillionaire has the best lawyers money can buy.
Epstein's legal team includes the former Clinton prosecutor, Kenneth Starr, who sources say has come to South Florida several times to try to make a deal.
And then they, for some reason, he struck this highly criticized plea deal with the district attorney.
He pleaded guilty in open court. He agreed to serve a total of 18 months in the Palm Beach detention facility, 12 for felony solicitation of prostitutes, and an additional 6 for procuring persons under 18 for prostitution.
It mildly skimmed the surface of the true horror of what Epstein was doing.
Here he is now, a registered sex offender, and yet Andrew is still apparently friends with him.
Billionaire investor Jeffrey Epstein, though he's just spent the last year in a Palm Beach, Florida prison for approaching teenage girls for sex, he's now a free man after 6 months were shaved off of his sentence. Why?
The US justice system comes under fire as Jeffrey Epstein walks free. As the news spreads, further offenses are reported.
Now more victims are coming forward saying he was let go too soon. Nearly a dozen women are suing him, including one who claims Epstein turned her into a sex slave.
Just 5 months after Epstein's house arrest ends, Prince Andrew spends 4 days with him at his New York townhouse. The men are infamously photographed deep in conversation in Central Park together. BBC Newsnight journalist Emily Maitlis quizzes Prince Andrew on the New York visit.
We had an opportunity to go for a walk in the park, and that was the conversation, coincidentally, that was photographed, which was when I said to him, I said, look, because of what has happened, I don't think it is appropriate that we should remain in contact.
Most people would end it either by letter, by email, or by telephone call. But Prince Andrew decides to fly 3,000 miles, stay in his house, somewhere in the region of 4 nights, attend a dinner party that's thrown in his honour.
Even if you flew out there, surely you would actively want to not stay overnight with Epstein in the very house where Epstein abused young girls.
This was a question many people were asking when the photo became public. Emily Maitlis put it to him in the Newsnight interview.
He threw a party to celebrate his release, and you were invited as
No,
the
I didn't
guest
go.
of honour.
Oh, in 2010, that certainly wasn't a party to celebrate his release in December, because it was a small dinner party. There were only 8 or 10 of us, I think, at the dinner. If there was a party, then I'd know nothing about that.
You were invited to that dinner as a guest of honour.
Well, I was there, so there was a dinner. I don't think it was quite as you might put it, but yeah, okay, I was there I was there at a dinner. Yeah.
Was that visit, December of 2010, the only time you saw him after he was convicted?
Yes.
Did you see him or speak
No.
to him again?
No, that was that.
Never
Funny enough,
since
2010 was it. That was it.
But Andrew's leaked email to Epstein from a few weeks ago has exposed this as a lie. February 2011, and the nation awakes to the bombshell revelation on the front page of the Mail on Sunday. For the first time, Andrew is shown with his arm around 17-year-old Virginia Giuffre.
The photograph of herself and Ghislaine Maxwell and Prince Andrew at the top of a flight of stairs on a landing in the house that was owned by Ghislaine Maxwell.
Years later, in the probing BBC Newsnight interview, Andrew denied the existence of the photograph, claiming it could have been doctored.
She provided a photo of the two of you together.
Yes.
Your arm was around her waist.
Yes.
You've seen the photo.
I've seen the photograph.
How do you explain that?
I can't. Because I have absolutely no memory of that photograph ever being taken.
Do you recognise yourself in the photo?
Yeah, it's pretty difficult not to recognise yourself. From the investigations that we've done, you can't prove whether or not that photograph is faked or not, because it is a photograph of a photograph of a photograph.
But now, another alleged email has just been exposed that appears to show that Andrew contacted Epstein a few days before the photo of him and Virginia was released.
He doesn't say, oh my God, they found a fake photograph of me. Instead, he seems to be saying, they found a photograph, I'm panicking because they're closing in, and he's treating the photograph as if it's real and true, and it's evidence that incriminates him.
The ramifications of which could change the monarchy forever.
If a member of the royal family was to go to prison, I doubt the royal family as an institution would survive.
We have some breaking news this hour out of the United Kingdom. Prince Andrew is giving up his royal titles.
With the world's media focused on Prince Andrew, he dramatically announced he was relinquishing his Duke of York title.
Andrew's reputation is in the gutter. We are seeing something which is without precedent in modern times.
It comes just 5 days after explosive emails show he kept in contact with Epstein, despite his public denials.
I don't think there's any way back for Andrew after this email's been released. He's been caught in a lie.
The humiliation doesn't end, as more sordid allegations against the prince are revealed in Virginia Giuffre's memoir.
There is a real sense that the rot has prevailed, and the royal family themselves will desperately be hoping they can cauterize it before it gets worse and takes over the entire body of the monarchy.
Andrew's undoing began in 2015, when he was sensationally linked to Epstein in shocking news reports.
Britain's Prince Andrew has been named in an ongoing lawsuit in America and accused of having sex with a minor during meetings organised by former Wall Street wizard Jeffrey Epstein.
Andrew's name appears in various depositions from Virginia Giuffre. Up to that point, no one had really realised the extent of Andrew's involvement with Epstein.
This is an NBC News.
But his downfall accelerates in 2019 with a disturbing new twist, covered in shocking breaking news reports.
That disgraced financier Jeffrey Epstein is dead. Epstein took his own life while he was behind bars here in New York City, facing charges of sex trafficking.
Epstein's death made everything 10 times worse for Andrew. It was a constant reminder of Andrew's ill judgment.
Andrew's attempts to explain himself, seen in the now infamous Newsnight interview, turned out to be a catastrophic mistake.
Do I regret the fact that he has quite obviously conducted himself in a manner unbecoming? Yes.
Unbecoming? He was a sex offender.
Yeah.
She almost wanted to sort of grab him by the shoulders and shake him. As the viewer of that Newsnight, I felt exactly the same.
Almost 2 weeks later, an interview that Virginia Giuffre has given to Panorama is shown, and the horrific reality of his alleged actions becomes clear.
It was a wicked time in my life. It was a really scary time in my life. I had just been abused by a member of a royal family. I couldn't comprehend how in the highest levels of the government and powerful people were allowing this to happen, not only allowing it to happen, but participating in it.
Virginia Giuffre came across as a young woman who had suffered grievously at the hands of a depraved man and whose life chances had been irreparably damaged because of it. She was not the pretty young girl who we remember from that snapshot with Andrew. I think there was an enormous amount of public sympathy. I think the public believed her. She was a compelling witness in the way that Prince Andrew was not.
The fallout from the interview is quick and brutal.
It was a catastrophic error. Andrew, in a space of 24 to 48 hours, became something of an international pariah. He could no longer represent his mother on any public stage because the public would not accept what he said.
Andrew issues a statement denying the allegations against him and announces that he is stepping back as a working royal. Days afterwards, he is stripped of his military titles.
He was still a member of the family, but he had to be not seen, not heard. Now, Andrew really resisted that. I remember one of Charles's aides telling me the press release that went out, Andrew rewrote it. Still, he couldn't realise the extent of his downfall.
In 2020, Andrew's close friend Ghislaine Maxwell is arrested by the FBI. They still want to question Andrew, but he's not cooperating.
He wouldn't make himself available, even as a material witness, to either the FBI or the lawyers.
Virginia is about to take the fight to him.
Virginia filed a civil case against Andrew, accompanied with a letter inviting Andrew to give an interview, and that she sent to Buckingham Palace. And she formally accused him of having sex with her 3 times when she was 17.
There is no comment from Andrew or from Buckingham Palace. Months later, with Maxwell now convicted for sex trafficking, Andrew settles Virginia Giuffre's lawsuit out of court. Where the money comes from is never confirmed.
There's a lot of speculation that his mother, the late Queen, had paid for some of this.
The settlement means Andrew will never have to face Virginia in court.
Andrew could have fought it, but he chose not to, and in doing so, he stepped back from the opportunity to try to prove his innocence.
But it's alleged the settlement money comes with strings. Revealed just this week with the publication of Virginia Giuffre's new book, she claims she was silenced by Andrew to save royal blushes.
The timing was particularly awful
because it was going to be the same year as the celebrations for Queen Elizabeth's historic Platinum Jubilee. Now, this was a chance for the nation to rejoice in her record-breaking reign. But instead, we face the prospect of a tawdry, revolting case where we'd be hearing all allegations, of a sexual kind against the Queen's favourite son.
There was always an assumption that along with the money to Virginia Giuffre, there will have been conditions. It now seems that the condition was that she wasn't allowed to speak publicly about the issue, but only for 1 year. And once that year was up, she could continue to discuss Andrew and what she says happened to her.
Later that year, there is tragic news from the palace.
We have some very important news. Buckingham Palace has just announced that Her Majesty Queen Elizabeth II has died.
Prince Andrew was often described as Queen Elizabeth's favourite son. She clearly had a soft spot for him, and he made sure everyone knew that. There's no question that Prince Andrew lost his biggest offender.
With the world's gaze on Andrew and Virginia, the attention takes its toll on his accuser.
She's been struggling with her mental health. Her family were desperately worried about her.
It's no wonder that her psychological state was a very unhealthy one, because she was somebody who went through more trauma and more pain than just about anybody could understand.
It's clear that she was in a very dark place.
In April 2025, there was a devastating development.
Virginia Giuffre, who accused Prince Andrew of sexual assault, has died. Her family say that she took her own life at her home in Australia. She was 41.
Her life had essentially been ruined by her association with a predatory paedophile sex offender in Jeffrey Epstein.
When the death of Virginia Giuffre was announced, like everybody, I was incredibly shocked and really saddened that what had been a very tragic life had ended very prematurely at her own hand.
It should, and it will, forever haunt Prince Andrew.
And I think, people like Andrew must have breathed a sigh of relief when they heard that she had died. One less person to testify against him.
But her bravery in speaking out has left a powerful legacy.
Virginia Giuffre desperately wanted people to believe victims, and she wanted people to stop belittling victims, victim shaming.
And Andrew's nightmare shows no sign of stopping.
Here she's had the final revenge. Here, beyond the grave, she's spoken to all of us, and she's laid bare exactly what happened with Prince Andrew and with others.
And of course, there is an irony that since her death, more and more stories have come out which seem to contradict Andrew's point of view and story and seem to confirm hers.
Leading to questions about just how much worse things can get for Andrew.
We are in uncharted territory here, and we have no idea where it's going to end up. And obviously at that point, all bets are off as to what happens next.
Britain's Prince Andrew says he's giving up his royal titles.
As international media attention intensifies, news breaks around the world that Prince Andrew won't be using his Duke of York title.
Prince Andrew has been in disgrace for many, many years now, but I don't think many people would have predicted this dramatic fall from grace.
Tensions have been building since explosive emails were released, showing Andrew lied about his relationship with Epstein, as featured in a Channel 5 documentary exclusive.
Prince Andrew's disgrace really has polluted the royal family's brand, and this has been an absolutely dire week in the history of the Windsor family.
But the former Duke faces more disgrace as Virginia Giuffre's memoir is published and reveals more about Andrew's alleged sleazy past. In September, Andrew's ex-wife of almost 30 years, Sarah Ferguson, found herself in hot water after The Sun on Sunday and The Mail on Sunday exposed an email she sent to sex trafficker Jeffrey Epstein after she says she would never contact him again.
Sarah Ferguson is at the centre of the latest Epstein scandal.
The Mail on Sunday obtained leaked emails from 2011 written by the Duchess of York to the late sex offender Jeffrey Epstein.
The email came weeks after Sarah Ferguson, who was married to Prince Andrew, had publicly distanced herself from Epstein.
She appears to grovel to the convicted paedophile.
Fergie's reputation has been damaged hugely by her association with Epstein, by her blind faith in her husband, and now by these latest emails, which seems to show that she didn't even understand the severity of the situation and continued to want to be friends with Jeffrey Epstein.
Just 1 month later, news breaks. A sensational email showing that Prince Andrew was also in contact with Jeffrey Epstein, after he had insisted he had cut all contact with him.
This email comes just 1 day after the publication of the image of him with Virginia Giuffre. He said, "We're in this together." He's almost saying, we're in the same boat now. And then, of course, you have the payoff, let's play some more soon. Everyone is aware of Jeffrey Epstein. He's notorious, so it has awful connotations. The language is extraordinary.
The email and its implications cast serious doubt over the prince's claims. But over the course of 5 days, Prince Andrew's royal life comes crashing down.
Andrew's fall from grace has been from the top to the bottom.
When it comes to Prince Andrew, the revelations just keep dragging on, and they get worse and worse.
On October the 15th, extracts of Virginia Giuffre's forthcoming memoir, Nobody's Girl, are released.
Finding out that Virginia Giuffre had written a book was certainly surprising to a lot of people, and then the fact that it's been printed posthumously, that she specifically wanted it to be printed, makes her story in many ways even sadder, but more powerful. She is having the last word.
It is unprecedented for members of the royal family to be written about with allegations of criminal behaviour.
Just 2 days later, and with pressure mounting, Prince Andrew releases a shocking statement that makes international news headlines.
Prince Andrew has announced he will give up his royal titles and honours.
Has decided to relinquish all of his royal titles and duties
after continued pressure over his friendship with the late sex offender Jeffrey Epstein.
The statement about Prince Andrew relinquishing some of his royal titles came from Andrew himself. I'm thinking it may have been better for King Charles to have issued that statement. It would have given this entire sleazy situation a bit of authority.
The announcement is that he has voluntarily decided not to use his titles. I don't think that really washes with the general public, the fact that they've gone into abeyance. I think they really want these titles removed.
He never earned any of his titles in the first place. He has a huge amount of privilege just through being born, and he's not losing much of that.
Virginia's family welcomes the announcement in an emotional interview with ITV News royal editor Chris Shipp.
Yeah, I mean, there's been a lot of mixed emotions for us over the last day as this has kind of developed through. For me, there's a big happy moment for us because, you know, she did fight for this. And I think this was a very big vindicating moment for her to show that she was consistently a truth teller. But it is, to your point, very sad for us as well because she's not here.
The deluge of damaging stories continued to flow when the Daily Mail reported that a second sex trafficking victim of Jeffrey Epstein was recommended to Andrew.
We have another email in which Epstein appears to have been brokering a dinner between Andrew and a woman who he wanted to introduce to the prince.
There are now suggestions that Prince Andrew was introduced to another trafficked young woman, and Jeffrey Epstein suggesting that his friend joins Andrew for dinner and that Andrew might enjoy this.
With the revelations coming thick and fast, one headline shocks the nation.
It has been reported that Andrew asked his bodyguard, who worked for the force, to dig up dirt on his sexual assault accuser, that is Virginia Giuffre.
Andrew allegedly gained access to Virginia Giuffre's date of birth and social security number in order to dig up dirt on her.
Yet another tangle of this story is the new revelation that Andrew asked his personal protection officer, who is a member of the Metropolitan Police, to have a dig around Virginia Giuffre's past.
I believe that the date of birth and the social security number of Virginia Giuffre were passed to Andrew by Jeffrey Epstein, who would have had them as her employer. But this is sensitive information. I mean, it's not allowed under data protection.
For him to go and ask someone to look into confidential information and find a criminal record against Virginia, I mean, that is, number one, morally disgraceful, but also a criminal act.
The former Duke could be the first member of the royal family to be investigated by the police in more than 20 years. His sister, Princess Anne, is the only member of the royal family to have a criminal conviction. In 2002, she was charged under the Dangerous Dogs Act.
I mean, this is Andrew yet again embarrassing the royal family. This arrogance that he thinks everyone and everything is there for him at his disposal to do whatever he wants.
The other factor in this is, Andrew told the palace that he was doing this, which means there's a huge potential for the blowback, for the fallout to affect the monarchy as an institution, because, Andrew was a working royal at the time. If found guilty, it's entirely possible Andrew could potentially be looking at the inside of a jail cell.
It has also been alleged that Andrew's ex-wife Sarah Ferguson has been shown to have taken money from Epstein for an extended period. So much so, he was fed up of funding her.
Well, the relationship with Sarah Ferguson was much deeper than I think people have realised. She was a constant thorn in Epstein's side, constantly asking for money, $50,000 here for small bills. Epstein understandably got pretty fed up with this.
It's as if the floodgates have opened and all of the toxic matter, the dirty details, the gossip, they've all come out.
With the release of Virginia Giuffre's highly anticipated memoir on the 21st of October, what more can come out about Andrew? And how damaging will it be for the monarchy?
The ripple effects of the publication of this book will be felt over months and months and months as people buy the book and read it for themselves, and they'll probably, they're going to come away feeling angry.
If the monarchy gets a grip, if he leaves Royal Lodge, if he loses his titles properly, including that of Prince, and he goes into some form of exile, then I think the situation can be saved.
I think there are more revelations poised to come out.
We shouldn't be surprised, but we should be shocked and disgusted.
Things have gone from bad to worse for Prince Andrew. After emails emerged, he was still in touch with Epstein in 2011.
This is not a he said, she said. There is a piece of documentary evidence at the heart of these allegations.
With pressure mounting, he took the shocking step to stop using his Duke of York title.
It's almost unprecedented, this removal of the title. A member of the royal family actually having to surrender his title.
But that might not be enough, as the release of Virginia Giuffre's memoir has revealed a slew of new devastating claims for the prince.
Virginia Giuffre has said that it was almost as if Prince Andrew felt that he was entitled to have sex with her, that he felt that he had a right to have sex with her.
Throwing the future, not only of Andrew, but the entire royal family, into jeopardy.
The monarchy had been through some pretty epically appalling times, but I think the last week must count significantly among them.
When it comes to Prince Andrew, the revelations just keep dragging on, and they get worse and worse.
This scandal has been incredibly damaging on the monarchy. Charles waited to be king longer than any other heir to the throne has ever done. He's in his mid-70s, he's living with cancer, and his reign has been overshadowed by his younger brother's scandals.
The support for the monarchy has fallen. This is a very dangerous moment.
Pressure mounts on Prince Andrew as senior politicians take aim.
Last week, there was more breaking news.
Prince Andrew has said that he'll stop using his royal titles. But that doesn't mean that he's really given them up. It just means that he won't put them on his official letterhead.
Formally stripping Andrew of his titles involves a lot of parliamentary time. It actually might take up to a year.
And the last thing that the king wants is to go to Parliament. It will be extremely humiliating and embarrassing for the royal family because, this is my opinion, all the MPs would vote it through.
We know that William has been pushing Charles hard to be firmer and stronger with Andrew. Buckingham Palace have already briefed that Andrew will not be seen at royal functions.
They don't want to see him at King Charles's 80th. They definitely don't want to see him at William's coronation.
I think the public are not satisfied with the actions that have been taken so far. At the moment, he's hardly suffered.
The media's attention has now turned to Andrew's 30-room mansion, Royal Lodge. After it transpired, he's been paying no rent.
For ordinary British people, they will be absolutely up in arms at the idea that Andrew gets to live rent-free is, going to be a kind of spark that lights a tinderbox.
It's all pretty shocking, and so I think increasingly people are going to say he should be out and find his own property and pay his own rent for it. The pressure on Andrew to leave is going to be growing greater and greater.
Andrew's lease arrangements have now been referred to the Commons spending watchdog. But with more revelations emerging, losing his home may be the least of Andrew's problems. After it was exposed, he allegedly emailed his protection officer, asking him to dig up dirt on Virginia.
If, as the reports say, the Met have opened an investigation into this, it seems to me that there's a very strong case against Andrew. So we could actually potentially see the first member of the royal family going to prison.
William and Charles are at a point now where they really need to look and ask themselves some really searching questions at whether they truly believe that it is possible that Andrew is as kind of benign and innocent as he claims to be.
Certainly, if Charles and William are supportive of a police investigation into Andrew, then there can't be any way back for him. Well, that feels like the final nail in the coffin.
In the game of snakes and ladders, my God, have they slithered down that slippery snake. I mean, they've slithered so far down.
In the face of so much scandal, commentators continue to speculate on what comes next.
When you look at the situation with Prince Andrew and the Epstein scandal from all those years ago now, which I know you have reported on and covered for many years, what happens next?
The problem is it's now death by 1,000 leaked emails.
What the king decides to do could define the royal family for generations to come.
Charles and William now really do need to understand if they cannot get this situation under control, then the political class are going to have to accept the reality that the monarchy can't just mark its own homework. Because what is at stake here is trust in the system, trust in the establishment, and people are going to think that the entitled, the privileged, are simply always allowed to get away with it.
Andrew is a proud man. All his life, he's been able to get what he wants. And now he is seeing his privilege, his royal birthright, clashing against the demands of his country and the demands of his family alike. The results are not going to be pretty.
It's almost impossible to see how Andrew's reputation could recover.
With no sign of media interest fading, the spotlight remains on the firm.
A Buckingham Palace source has told the BBC that they accept there may be more days of pain ahead as a result of the scandal surrounding Prince Andrew.
The royal family were always supposed to embody divine qualities of ethics and morality. They were not supposed to be partying with trafficked women. How did he think that he would possibly justify it? The only explanation is that the prince thought that he could do what he wanted and that he'd get away with it.
The Prince Andrew scandal is the most devastatingly embarrassing and damaging scandal engulfed the monarchy. They want this particular fire to be put out, but the question is, can you put out this fire, or is it just going to explode somewhere else?